When you think of the biggest FPV events of the year, you think of Rotor Riot Rampage, Flight Fest, and West Coast Throwdown. I've been meaning to get to one of these for quite some time now, and this year I finally pulled the trigger. I made it out to West Coast Throwdown 2024, and it was amazing. So in this video today, I just want to kind of go through my experience, talk about some things I liked, talk about some things maybe I didn't like, and that way you can determine for yourself if this is something you'd be interested in doing in the future. Let's get into it. Let's just start off by talking about the broader topic of these big FPV events. Now, if you're like me, you had some reservations of attending one of these. My main ones were, number one, they kind of seemed a little bit intimidating. Everyone kind of seemed like they were really pros and, a noob, quite frankly, wouldn't be welcome. And my second concern was, will I even get to fly? These are big events, there's a lot of people there, and there's not that much space. So anyone that knows anything about FPV knows that a lot of people in a small space does not really mix all that well, especially for your video signal. And the third thing that was holding me back was, is this worth the expense? I, like most people, have a job, I have vacation days I have to balance, I obviously do not have unlimited money, so you gotta kind of weigh your options. Is this event worth spending my vacation time on and my money? Because of course, it is not cheap. So now let's dive into the first point I had of thinking that these events are just too intimidating. I just couldn't shake this feeling of, I wouldn't be welcome there unless I'm a pro. And I'm here to tell you, after finally attending one of these, that that could not be further from the truth. I know everyone says that to try and get you to come to the events, but I'm here to tell you, as somebody that was not paid to make this or talk about this at all, they don't care what I say. I'm just here to tell you guys, don't let the fact that a lot of good pilots do go to these discourage you from attending one yourself. There were many newer pilots, and all of the ones that I talked to at least had an absolute blast. They did not feel pressured, they did not feel inadequate, they were just having a good time. And everyone there was there to help them. If they had a question, they'd be helped immediately with no judgment. And that is exactly how it should be. So I was really happy to see that. So props to the community. It's so good to see that. Seriously, thank you. You guys are awesome. And my second concern was, will I even get to fly? Having been in this for a while now, I kind of have understood the limitations of the video system and just how many pilots you can have in the air. And anytime I hear of a big FPV or any flight event in general really, the first thing that comes to my mind is, will I even get the chance to fly here? Or will somebody be always plugging in on me and blowing me out of the sky? Now, going into this, I honestly thought that I would not be doing that much flying. I was fully prepared for just 2 days of doing nothing but sitting on my ass, drinking a beer, and watching a fire and talking with some pilots. And I gotta tell you, I am shocked at the amount of flying I actually got to do. The first day alone, I flew 20 packs. 20 freestyle packs. I rarely get to do that even where I live, so that was just awesome. Now, one thing that's kind of unique about West Coast Throwdown as compared to other flight events is the fact that it's in like just a normal park, a campground. And this particular campground has a lot of hilly features, and what hilly features mean for you as a pilot is that they're really good at making distinct zones that you can safely fly without pissing off other pilots. I think at this event they had 2 different freestyle areas, a racing course, and then the rest of the park. But that by no means was the only spot that you could fly. If you could find a little area tucked down by the river, kind of away from everything else, go for it. As long as you're being respectful of other people's flying experience and you're not flying super high and you're not blasting their video out of the sky on full power, you're kind of just free to roam around and exercise your freedoms. Now, I think this year was a bit of a down year. I think there was about 100 give or take pilots there, so it wasn't like, massive, but 100 people in a small space all trying to fly drones on the same exact radio channels, that can still get congested. I'm really glad to see that I still got to fly. Now, before we get to the third point of was this worth the expense, I just want to cover one more thing. Anyone that's been flying drones for longer than about 2 weeks, especially with multiple people in one spot, knows that Karens are always a danger. And if I'm being totally honest, I was a bit concerned about the Karen situation at this campground because, it's not just West Coast Throwdown. This is an actual campground. There's like normal people here too, and they have every right to be there. In fact, I'd be kind of pissed if I was just trying to enjoy a nice weekend by the river and all these stupid drones are buzzing around me. I wouldn't like that. So I can certainly see how others would have a problem too. But I am overjoyed to say I only had one Karen encounter. And this wasn't even really the fault of the Karen. It was more the fault of Whoever decided to put the freestyle courses where they are. Now in this particular area, there is a frisbee golf hole right in the middle of the freestyle course. And yes, they have every right to be there. I'm not saying that they don't. But in this moment, there was a Karen standing at the top of the hill. He has two frisbees in hand. And this was broad daylight, so he could see me, he could see my friend, and he could see my friend's $5,000 camera sitting right next to him. And what he did next was toss his frisbee directly at us. And while he did miss the hole, he did not miss my friend's camera, and he did not miss my Cinewoop. It smacked right into it, knocked it over. Luckily there was no damage, but it still pissed me off. Now after doing this guy comes up and you'd think he would apologize. That's certainly what I would do. But instead, he proceeds to tell us that we're not supposed to be flying there, even though there is clearly marked yellow caution tape all around and signs marking the freestyle area with a big West Coast Throwdown banner. After we informed him that yes, we are indeed supposed to be flying here, he kind of huffed and he puffed and he walked away. So all in all, in the 2 days that I was there, I only had one Karen. I would certainly consider that a win. All right, well, now it's time to find out what you really came here to find out. Is this worth spending all this money? So all in all, between the camping and the pilot pass, I spent just under $200, $195 to be exact. $165 for the pilot pass and $30 for the camping pass. Factor in food for 2 days and about 80, 90 bucks in gas. I was looking at, between $350 and $400. Now, luckily, I do live close enough to drive to this, so I didn't have to get on an airplane. So I would say, for the amount of money that I spent, well under $1,000, I would say absolutely yes, it was worth it. For 2 days of awesome fun in an awesome spot, it was definitely worth it. That being said, if you have to travel from like Florida, for example, and maybe you only have one quad and like one battery, you just started, it's probably not worth it then. I would say if you've been in this for a few months, you've got a pretty sizable investment in gear, you've got a lot of batteries, you got multiple quads, you got plenty of chargers, I would say in that case, go for it. You won't be disappointed. But again, if you're a newbie, like 2 weeks into it, don't have all that gear yet, probably not worth it. But for those of you that do decide to go next year, you will not be disappointed. You will be rewarded with 2 world-class freestyle spots. These 2 spots are tree spots, and I don't know about you guys, but that is my absolute favorite environment to fly in. Kind of for 2 reasons. Number 1 is the trees and the canopy just make up this awesome environment that you don't get anywhere else. You can't find that in a bando or any other area. So that environment is just fun. But number 2, and probably the best part, is they're always over grass. So if you do crash, and you will crash, you probably won't break anything serious. In 2 days of flying probably well over 30 packs of freestyle, I only broke 4 propellers and 1 DJI antenna. That is nothing, you guys. For that much flying, that much bashing and ripping, that's nothing. That's essentially free. So these 2 freestyle spots they have are absolutely incredible. You guys will not want to miss them. Trust me on that. And if you're into racing, they do have racing too. There's one main course set up for pretty much the whole time, and people are just ripping around that thing all day long, all 4 days. That's not really my thing, but it does look fun, I have to admit, and people certainly seem to enjoy it. So if that's your thing, definitely check it out. And lastly, they have obviously some tiny whoop options too. During the day in the campground area, you're pretty much free to rip around your tiny whoop. A lot of people do. I certainly did. And as long as you keep it on a really, really low power setting and you make sure to scan the channels beforehand to make sure you're not blowing anyone else out of the sky, you're pretty much free to just whoop around wherever you want. And then at night, they have this awesome lit up tiny whoop track in the wooded foresty area that to a freestyle pilot looks like an absolute nightmare mess that's confusing and I can't figure out, but it's still fun just to fly through lit up gates with a tiny whoop. I didn't do very well because I didn't know the course, but who cares? It was a good time. But anyways, yeah, that was my experience at West Coast Throwdown 2024 this year. It was an awesome experience that I have not really had yet. So I'm really, really glad that I made the time, I spent the money, I took the time off of work to actually go make this happen. It was well worth it. And I hope you guys enjoyed some of the footage here. I'll throw a little edit too at the back end of this one. Damn, I felt like I was in the flow for a lot of this event. And those of you that have been watching me for a while know that that is my favorite part about FPV. There's nothing like that flow state. But that's about it for this one, you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. I hope this helped you make up your mind about if you want to attend some event like this in the future. Until the next one, keep ripping, keep wrecking, and keep learning. Enjoy this flight edit. Peace.